This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Did you know riders who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $200 per year? That's a whole new pair of riding gloves and more. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $197 by new customers surveyed who save with Progressive between October 2024 and September 2025. Potential savings will vary.
All episodes of A Trial by Podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only. Much to their parents' dismay, neither host is a lawyer, journalist, or investigator. Just two people with microphones and Wi-Fi. All actions discussed are alleged, and all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. For the full legal mumbo-jumbo, check the show notes.
On June 6, 1992, 19-year-old Suzie Streeter and 18-year-old Stacy McCall proudly walked across the stage and received their diplomas from Springfield, Missouri's Kickapoo High School. Like any other teen on graduation day, the girls had a long night of party hopping ahead of them before they ended up back at Suzie's house to spend the night. Their plan for the next day was to go to a water park in a nearby town with a bunch of friends. However, when their friends, Janelle, Kirby, and Mike Henson, came to get them the next morning, they found the house empty. Stacy, Suzie, and Suzie's mom, 47-year-old Sherill Levitt, they were all gone. All three of the women's cars, keys, and purses were at the house. And even stranger, while Janelle and Mike were at the home, the phone rang. Janelle answered it, and a man's voice on the other end immediately launched into sexual remarks. To this day, that man remains unidentified, and Suzie, Stacy, and Sherill have never been seen again. This is the story of the disappearance of the Springfield Three. Welcome back to the pod, everybody. I am your host, Kelsey, and today I am with my friend, Taylor.
Hello, I've been here before.
Yes, if you guys listen to the Martha Moxley episodes, you have heard Taylor. And if you guys have been here for a while and you've been keeping up with like all of the different people who have been coming through and helping with the podcast, you probably also know Taylor's husband, Eric, who is the podcast editor. So it's a family affair now. I love it. They're pretty much adopting me at this point.
I wish.
But yeah, I was telling Taylor, I started recording this episode the other day just on my own. You guys have probably noticed the last like month or two of episodes, it's just been me. And that's just been because it's been difficult. I'm very, very busy right now. So it's been difficult to like schedule with other people. So I've just been doing them on my own. I'm hoping to start bringing guests back. I know a lot of you guys prefer like the more conversational style, which personally I do too. I think it's more fun for me to record. And that's just when I listen to other podcasts, that's what I want to listen to is the conversational style ones. So anyway, I'm trying to record this episode by myself the other day. I'm like 28 minutes into recording, just bored, keep messing up my words. And I look at how far I am. I was 2 pages in. I cannot explain to you guys at what level of reading that was. Like that was a kindergarten level of reading that I was doing.
Not kindergarten.
And I just was like, oh, like this is not fun at all for me right now. And not that these stories are fun, but I was like, I got to start bringing guests back. So Taylor showed up last minute. Shout out Taylor.
Yes. You know, you just want to hear me talk, I know.
Yeah. You got to talk more into the mic, dude.
Nope.
Sorry.
You just want to hear me talk.
Yes. I told Taylor, I'm like, you got to yap away this episode.
I will. I'll try my best.
So today, for anyone who is not super into true crime, which includes Taylor, like Taylor doesn't really watch or listen to any true crime stuff for the
Or
most part.
podcasts in general.
Yeah, she doesn't listen to podcasts in general. So she probably doesn't know. If you're big into true crime, you've probably heard this case before or at least heard of it. But this is a very famous case in the true crime sphere because it is, first of all, it's 3 women who go missing. It's a mom, a daughter, and the daughter's friend. And it's been decades and they've never been seen again. There's not really any sort of crime scene. And there's just not a lot of clues to go off of except tiny little things that just kind of make this like very mysterious, very intriguing. And yes, it's a very highly reported on case. So with that being said, our story today starts in Springfield, Missouri, of course, the Springfield Three. And it starts with the Kickapoo High School class of 1992 walking across the stage at Missouri State University's Hammond Student Center in the late afternoon of Saturday, June 6th. There were more than 350 Springfield, Missouri graduates that were excited to start their new lives. High school graduation day, that was like, you're just like, thank fucking God. This is over.
I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Couldn't wait for it. So among these 350 students were friends, 18-year-old Stacy McCall and Suzie Streeter, who was 19 years old. The girls had made plans with fellow classmates for that night. They were going to go to all of these different parties.
Grad parties.
I don't know if they were like actual grad parties because at least when I graduated high school, no one did their grad party on graduation day, but it was more of just like parties. You know what I mean? Like not specifically for a single person's.
Oh, like the cookouts and barbecues that people like will host afterwards and all the like kids come over. No, I feel like I've seen those.
Yeah, but like on graduation day?
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's that person's grad party?
No, I think it's just like a day of celebration.
Yes. Yeah. We're on the same page. That's what I'm thinking too. Like, I don't think that it's like, oh, we're going to Taylor's grad party. We're going to so-and-so's grad party. It's like all the graduates are partying together, probably just getting wasted. You know, they're teenagers. That's what you do, like after you graduate high school. And so they have all these plans to go to all these parties, but they also have a fun weekend plan. They were supposed to stop by some of these parties and then they were going to drive to a town called Branson that night. And they were going to spend the night in Branson because them and a bunch of their friends were going to this water park in Branson in the morning.
That's so weird because the night after my graduation, I went to Kalahari for the weekend.
This is same vibe, same exact like series of incidents. But yeah, so they've got these parties to go to. Before Stacy leaves her house, she tells her mom, Janice McCall, that she was running late and she didn't have time to cut her graduation cake with the family, but they would do it the next day after she got back from the water park. She told Janice that she would call her later with the details of the plan. Where were they sleeping? What time were they leaving? All of these different things. Because remember, this is 1992, so there's no cell phones. Like, you got to call your mom and tell her the plan.
Yeah.
So she can't just call you and be like, where are you? What are you doing? So she's like, I'll call you later. They say I love you to each other. And Stacy dashed out the door. And that would be the last time that Janice ever spoke with her daughter. Now, between 8:15 and 8:30 p.m. that night, Stacy drove her Toyota Corolla and Suzie drove her Ford Escort. And so they're driving separately to their friend Janelle Kirby's house in Battlefield, which is just about 20 minutes from Springfield. And just because these women are still missing, and this is an unsolved case, I want to talk about these cars a little bit. Toyota Corolla and a Ford Escort, both of them were red. And these cars were not missing, but I think it's important, if anyone lived in the area at that time and you're trying to like think back on, did I see anything weird, whatever. Mm-hmm. They were throughout this night driving 2 different cars, but to the same places. So they're probably like 2 red cars, like right in front of one another. It's something that I don't know, like if you would really notice it because you don't know to look for it, but it's, I think, an important thing to mention. But yeah, so they're headed over to their friend Janelle Kirby's house. And Janelle, Stacy, and Suzie, they were like a trio. Since they were kids, grew up together, like they were a package deal. Whatever one of them was doing, the other 2 were like assumed to be involved as well. It was just like, okay, if I invite Janelle, Stacy and Suzie are automatically invited too, that sort of thing.
Wish I had that in high school.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to have in high school for sure. They And hey, guys, if you're a high schooler listening, you don't have that. I didn't have friends like that in high school either. Like, not girlfriends like that. So, and me and Taylor turned out just fine.
Did we?
Good question. So, yeah, they parked their cars at Janelle's house, and the three girls ended up walking to another party that was nearby. So, ultimately, they're partying. They're supposed to drive to Branson, and they kind of decide, we don't want to drive all the way to Branson tonight. So Janelle calls her mom, Kathy Kirby, around 9:30 p.m. to tell her that they were going to come back to the Kirby's house after the party and actually stay the night there. Because originally, the girls weren't supposed to be at Janelle's house. They're supposed to, I don't know where they were supposed to stay in Branson, but they were supposed to go to Branson that night. Now, about an hour later, Stacy called her mom, Janice, around 10:30. Now, I feel like these names are kind of hard because Stacy and Suzie are so similar.
Yeah.
Suzie is the one whose mother is also missing, Sherill. We will get to how she becomes involved. Stacy is the one that it's not her mom missing. I feel like that's like an important distinction. It'll become more clear throughout the story, but I want to make it clear in this beginning stage of when we're talking about Janice is not missing, okay? So Stacy calls her mom, Janice, around 10:30, and she tells Janice that they had decided that they weren't going to drive to Branson that night, and they were going to go the following morning. So she tells her mom that she and Suzie were going to stay the night at Janelle's house. So Janelle's telling her mom the same thing Stacy is telling her mom. The stories line up, it's making sense, and I think that's important because it's not like, oh, they were lying and going somewhere else. You know, like if they were like telling their moms, oh, we're going to stay at the other one's house, then you wonder, well, where actually were they?
Like a 90s teen movie.
Right. But it seems like it wasn't the case. They were where they said they were going to be, and they were being honest with their moms about like the plan. So they stay at this party for a few more hours before heading back into Springfield to hit up another party. So now they're leaving Battlefield, they're going back to Springfield, and about an hour and a half after they arrived at this, like, I don't even know what number party this is, like maybe the third party, the cops show up there. But this is the 90s. So despite beers all over and underage people drinking and hanging out, the police just told the kids, like, hey, clean it up, shut it down, go home. So no one's arrested. No one's, getting an underage. Like, no one's really in trouble. It's just like, all right, you guys can't be drinking. You go get in your cars and drive home, pretty much, is the vibe.
Was it really that lax in the 90s?
I don't, you know what? I wasn't there, so I don't know. But, like, you guys I know our listeners, and they're going to be in the comments, and they're going to let us know if it was really that lax. I feel like in the 80s, the way my parents talk about the 80s, it was, but I don't know about the 90s.
I don't know. Yeah, do you want to know?
We'll find out. Trust me, they'll let us know. But yeah, so the cops come. They're like telling everybody to go home. But Stacy and Suzie, like, I don't know if you guys can tell, they're here to have a good time, okay? They're not really ready to call it a night yet. They want to keep the party going. And I'm like, soul sisters over here. I get that. I get that feeling. It's almost to a fault. So they want to celebrate, and they decide, all right, if all these parties are over, let's just go back to Janelle's house and keep the party going there, okay? So they get back to the Kirby household. This is Janelle's family's house around 2 a.m. And again, the plan, they're going to have a sleepover there. But when they get there, they kind of realize there's nowhere for them to sleep because a bunch of Janelle's relatives were in town for the graduation. So there were no like empty beds or couches or anything. And there just wasn't a good spot for them to sleep because, again, the plan was not, they weren't supposed to stay at Janelle's house. This was like a last minute change of plans. So Kathy Kirby, who is Janelle's mom, she's kind of like trying to make it work for them because obviously it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't want to send teenage girls out at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but she's tired. Kathy's mom is tired.
Dude, Kathy's mom, sweet lady, she's trying to make like a bed out of blankets and stuff for them on the floor, like making it cushy as possible. But Stacy and Suzie told her that we don't want to impose. Don't worry. Like, we can just go back to Suzie's house. And in fact, they were pretty excited to go sleep at Suzie's house because Suzie had just gotten a new waterbed as a graduation present.
Not a waterbed.
Dude, a fucking waterbed. And if that ain't a sign of the 90s, I don't know what is.
Have those in the night? I thought that was like a 70s, 80s thing.
Dude, my parents had a waterbed when I was a kid. That shit was awesome.
I've never actually seen one in real life.
Dude, it was crazy. And they even had those like black sheets with like Oh, it's like a very specific pattern, like black sheets with like different colors, like almost it looked like brush strokes kind of. I'll show it to you and you'll be like, yes, I know this pattern.
Oh
like,
my goodness.
It was just so popular, like this fabric. I'll post a picture of the exact fabric I'm talking about on Instagram because I feel like everybody will be like, yes, I know what you're talking about. But yeah, so they're like, all right, that's fine. We're going to go sleep in Susie's waterbed. And it just sounded more appealing than sleeping on the floor, of the house. Of course, you're like, I'd rather be like swimming in the ocean right now on this waterbed.
Floating.
So Suzie and Stacy both get into their own cars because remember, they're driving separately. And around 2:10 a.m., they head back to Susie's house. Now, remember, they're supposed to go to the water park in Branson. And Janelle's supposed to go with them because Janelle was on the same boat with Suzie and Stacy. Like, she was supposed to go to Branson the night before. She changed her plans to now she's going in the morning. So she calls Susie's house at around 7:30 a.m. so they could kind of get their plan together of like, what time are we going to leave? All of those sorts of things. But no one picks up at the house. And no one really thinks this is weird at first. It's 7:30 a.m. The girls were out till, after 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, okay, whatever. But then Janelle keeps calling, and there's no answer. And it starts to get where she's a little bit like, that's so weird because they know we have these plans. They were excited about these plans. They want to go. And also because Susie's mom should be home. And
Right.
like you would think her mom is going to be awake.
So somebody would answer the house phone. It's waking up the whole house.
Exactly. They're not just letting it ring and ring and ring while they're sleeping.
I'm imagining this is one of those corded wall phones also. Like it's in the kitchen or something.
100%. That I have no idea, but yes, I'm imagining.
It's like that cream white color.
Yes, exactly. So, of course, Janelle did not know this at the time, but we know from later information that people were also trying to reach Sherill as well, and no one was getting a hold of Sherill, which is Susie's mom. And we would later learn that the last time anyone had spoken to Sherill was the evening before when she had talked to a friend on the phone about a piece of furniture that she was refinishing. So it was like after dinner time is when she was on the phone with this friend.
So did the girls not call home at like 2:30 and say, actually, we're coming back here?
Not that I've read. No, I don't believe they did.
Okay.
But I don't know because Cheryl's missing as well. It might just be that we don't know. I'm not sure how detailed like phone records were in the 90s. Like if they would be able to see that on a call log. But yeah, I think it's possible, but there's no evidence of it from what I've read. I think it's safe to say that this podcast has taught us one thing above all else, and that's that monsters hide in plain sight. And your tap water's the same story. 3 out of 4 U.S. homes have contaminated water running right out of their faucets, putting you and your family at risk for health concerns like fatigue, hormone disruption, cognitive decline. There's no warning signs, just a glass of water that looks innocent. And your standard fridge filter, that's another trope we know all too well from this podcast. It's the protector who's supposed to keep you safe, but is doing the bare minimum. The one that everyone trusts by default without ever stopping to ask if they've actually earned it. And spoiler alert, they haven't. That's where AquaTrue comes in. AquaTrue's patented 4-stage reverse osmosis system goes above and beyond to protect you and your family from 84 different contaminants hiding in plain sight. The suspects that your fridge filter isn't even looking for. And the best part is AquaTrue does the work for you. There's no plumbing, there's no installation. You just plug it in, and for the first time, you'll actually know what's in your water. Take the guesswork out of pure, great-tasting water. Go to AquaTrue.com and use promo code ATrialByPodcast for 20% off. That's AQUATRU.com using promo code ATrialByPodcast.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
So after about several hours, actually more than several hours really, of trying to reach someone at the house, Janelle's like, we just have to show up and like see what's going on. Cause like, why aren't they answering the phone? Like we have to leave. Everybody's going to the water park. So Janelle and her boyfriend, Mike Henson, they decide they're just going to drive over and knock on the door. And when they got to the house, which was sometime around noon, They saw that Suzie and Stacy's cars were parked in the driveway, and Cheryl's car was parked in the carport. So nothing really seems off. They all should be there, and it looks like they're all there.
Right.
But as they walk up, they notice something off about the situation. And that is when you go up to the porch, up to the front door, there's a porch light that has like a glass dome around it. And there's one on either side. And one of these glass domes from the porch light was broken, and it was like lying in pieces on the porch right in front of the front door. But the light bulb itself was still intact. So the bulb's not broken, just the glass that encases it. And it's one of those things where looking back on it now and understanding what happened here, this broken glass was evidence of something, we don't know what. But Mike Henson, being a young gentleman, didn't want to leave it there because, Sherill is divorced. She lives by herself. It's just Sherill and Suzie. So he's being like a gentleman, and he cleans up the glass and throws it away. Again, they don't really realize what's going on here, of course, but it is just like, oh, I really wish we had that glass. Like, what if there was fingerprints or something on it?
That's some weird behavior, Mike.
Well, we'll come to find out. We'll see. We'll see how sketchy Mike is or not. So they're knocking, they're ringing the doorbell, and I don't think they clean up this glass right away. Like, I think they clean it up a little bit later in the morning because we're going to see they spend a little bit of time at this house. So I don't think it's like, oh, he cleans it up before they're even like knocking and ringing the doorbell.
To me it sounded like you were saying they pulled up, saw the broken glass. He's like, oh, let me just clean this up really quick.
I think that he probably does it a little bit later in the morning because like we'll talk about everything that goes down here. I don't know exactly when he cleaned up the glass. All I know is that he did clean it up and they were not able to recover it by the time the police got involved. So they're knocking, they're ringing the doorbell, they get no response, and they're like, this is so weird because they're all here. Their cars are all here. So they just like try the door and it was unlocked. So they open it and they go inside. And whether or not this was like normal for them to have the door unlocked, I'm not sure. But everybody lock your doors at home. Don't leave it unlocked. The male romantic lead in my life leaves his motherfucking, I shouldn't even say that, but he does leave his front door unlocked, and it drives me crazy. I like leave in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, we could have died.
Oh, I get that too. Like if I come back and find that something is open, I'm like, what? Someone could be waiting here for me.
Yes. No. And with a baby in the house,
especially if my baby is so.
Yeah. So they go inside and the house was quiet except for the family's small little terrier dog named Cinnamon, who was just barking up a motherfucking storm.
Not Cinnamon.
Cinnamon seemed very distraught. He was acting weird. He's barking like crazy and just weird. Like they hadn't seen the dog act like this before. And again, Janelle is like best friends with Suzie, so she knows this dog well. And so they're kind of like yelling out their names. They're going from room to room looking for Sherill, Suzie, and Stacy, but they're not finding them. However, they are finding some odd things around the house. Number one, the television in Susie's room was on and just playing static. The way I would have yeeted myself out of it.
Like this is a horror film.
I would have yeeted myself out of this house. Now, I know, like, I remember static being on the TV and stuff when I was a kid. So, like, I guess back in the day when you would see that all the time, maybe it wasn't as creepy. But, like, to me, Like,
no.
Oh, the house is quiet. No one's there, but all their cars are there. The door was unlocked. The light's broken. And now the TV is just playing static in the bedroom where they should be sleeping on this new waterbed.
No, thank you. Not on the waterbed. I'm sorry. I'm just going back to the waterbed.
Yeah, waterbed's like a really intense move. But yeah, so they're looking in Susie's room. They don't see anyone. They go into Cheryl's bedroom, and Cheryl's bed looked like it had been slept in, and it wasn't made. They always point that out in like a lot of the source materials I use. They're like, and her bed was unmade. You could tell someone had slept in it, but it wasn't made. So to me, it sounds like she would make her bed every morning, and this was unusual for her. But like, I didn't see anything that explicitly said that. So I don't know how weird it is that the bed wasn't made. A lot of people don't make their beds in the morning. What was weird is that on the bed, there was a book open, but it was like face down to hold her page. And and her reading glasses were right by the book too. So to me, that seems like, oh, you put the book down to go do something quick or whatever.
Right.
And you are expecting to come back to this book and pick it up and start reading it again. Like if you are done reading for the night, you're not going to just like lay it down face down.
Right.
To me, it sounds like, was she interrupted while she was laying in bed reading by maybe someone at the door, maybe the sound of glass breaking, and she, puts the book down to go look for what's going, or maybe just the girls coming home. She hears the girls coming home. She's not expecting them.
That was my first thought. Like maybe she wasn't expecting the girls to be coming home because they said they were staying at the other girl's house. So, she hears them and she's like, oh, I hear my door opening. So she puts her books down, takes the reading glasses off,
goes to see what it is.
Goes to see what's happening. We love her because I'm not going to see what's happening.
But that's the thing, is it makes me feel like she didn't get back into that bed after. But I don't know. I just don't think you're not laying down to go to sleep and just laying your book on the bed with you.
Right.
Like, you'd be scared you'll lose your page, The next weird thing is that Cheryl's purse was found. And if you guys heard the intro before, the intro music, all three of their purses, all three of their car keys, and all three of their cars are found at the house, which is very odd when they're not there, okay? But what's weird about Cheryl's purse is that Cheryl's purse was found by Suzie's room. So there were like steps that went up to Suzie's bedroom. And on those steps, it was Cheryl's purse, Suzie's purse, and Stacy's purse, all like very neatly lined up at the base of the steps. And inside the purses were, again, their car keys, their cigarettes, their wallets, their cash, and Stacy's clothes that she had been wearing Saturday night. They were folded up neatly and put on top of her shoes next to the purses. And at first, when I heard her clothes were there, I was like, oh, fuck no. But what I was thinking, because Stacy is the one that does not live in this house. This is Suzie's house. I think if I was sleeping at someone else's house, like, my friend would give me clothes to sleep in. Like, when I drunk sleep over on Emily's couch, because, I've been drinking and I don't drink and drive. And so I sleep on Emily's couch because we Uber very quickly to her house from the bars. Emily gives me clothes to sleep in. So the folded up clothes freaks me out for a second. I'm like, no, I feel like that's what I would do, is I fold up my clothes, put them like by my shoes or by my purse for the morning, and I'll put them back on in the morning, whatever. But I need comfy clothes to sleep in. But why is Cheryl's purse with their purses?
Right. Like, if she was already at home, her purse wouldn't be on the stairs.
Yeah, by her daughter's room. And it's just like a short staircase that like goes up to her room. But like, it's just very, very odd. And the other thing that I read is that I believe it was Suzie and Sherill. I think all three of them smoked, but Suzie and Sherill specifically were like, they were smokers, okay? Like, they weren't leaving their cigarettes. They weren't going out of the house without their cigarettes.
At 18?
Yeah. This
Like
is
a
the
chain
90s.
smoker?
This is the 90s. We're in Springfield, Missouri, all right, in 1992. But yeah, the purses, to me, I feel like why these purses are lined up like this, I don't know. But I do think it is something that has to do with what happened to them. Or like, I just don't think that was like a normal thing that has nothing to do with the scenario. Like, if it was just a normal Saturday night and nothing happened to them, I don't think all their stuff's going to be like lined up like that.
No, especially, even more I could argue for the girls, but mom's not setting her purse there on the stairs and she's been home. It's going to be on a hook or on a table or a counter or
Yeah. It's
somewhere.
not like that's her spot where she keeps her
she
purse.
doesn't keep her purse on the stairs.
Yeah. Now, they also, of course, looked in Suzie's room, and there's nothing particularly weird about it. On the headboard, there was an ashtray, a soda can, and a copy of the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, which is just kind of eerie knowing that, we don't know where they are. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so they're kind of looking around. They're like, this is weird. But it's not really clocking to them that something bad is happening here. They're just like, where the fuck are they? We're supposed to go to the water park. Like, what is going on? And while they're at the house, the phone rings. And Janelle goes to answer it. She's thinking it's probably one of them calling the house, trying, because whatever they left unexpectedly, they're thinking, because all their cars are there. So she goes to pick up the phone. And on the other end is the voice of a man. And she later describes this man as sounding like a teenager, like it sounded like a teenage boy. And as soon as she picks up the phone, we don't know exactly what he was saying, but basically he just starts saying stuff like sexual stuff to her, like inappropriate innuendos, just like saying sex stuff to her. And so she immediately hangs up the phone. She's like, this is like a prank call. And we'll later learn, or I guess I should say like authorities later learned, that Suzie and Sherill had been receiving prank calls like this, where it's some guy And he is just like saying sexual things to them, like calling their house and saying weird sex stuff to them.
And at this point, Mike is still in the house with her.
Yes, Mike is still in the house with her. It was not Mike on the phone. But yeah, so she hangs up immediately and the phone rings again. And so she answers it again. And it is the same voice saying the same like weird, lewd, crude shit to her. And so she hangs up again. Now, she doesn't ask him any questions. She doesn't try and figure out who it is. She doesn't ask if this guy knows where the girls are or anything like that. And people talk about this a lot. I don't think, even if she did, this guy's prank calling. And he doesn't know what's going on. So I don't think she was going to get any answers out of this man. Now, this guy has never been identified. We don't know who's making these calls. And we don't know if these calls were just completely unrelated to what happened to the women, or if maybe this guy had something to do with it. Was he stalking them? Was he watching the house? What was going on? I don't know. My gut instinct is that this is unrelated, because why would he be calling the house if he's taken them?
Or if he's covering his tracks.
Yeah, but covering your tracks with a prank phone call that
I don't know. Maybe he's just some weirdo who has been following them and was calling the house every day. And he's like, I got to keep appearances. If there are phone records, I can argue and say I was doing my daily weird phone call that. He's not going to go to jail for that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
he say, did you take them? Well, why would I have taken them if I was doing my weird daily phone call?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, this guy needs to be looked into. And it is suspicious to me that at this point in time, if this was really just a teenage kid making prank calls, why wouldn't you be like, oh, that was me. I was just making prank calls. Why wouldn't you come forward? That is suspicious to me. That, I think that's weird. But I also just am we'll see that whatever happened to these women, there are not a lot of clues left behind. And I'm can some teenage kid really do that? But also, she just said he sounded like a teenager. That doesn't mean he actually was a teenager.
I mean, to me, an 18-year-old teenage boy sounds like a grown man. So I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
what she means by that.
I don't know. She doesn't. I didn't find any explanation of why. Was it the voice? Was it the tone? Or was it the dialect of kids these days are yeah, no cap, whatever. You know, was it the terminology?
Was it the terminology or the actual sound of his voice?
I don't know. So they're they don't know what the hell's going on. They're this is a weird situation. But again, they're not thinking anything horrible has happened. I don't know what they suspected. Maybe they thought, okay, well, maybe there's an emergency. They went to the hospital, or maybe someone, there was an emergency, but not with them. And so someone came and picked them all up to take them somewhere or whatever, something just happened and we're just behind. And I think this was one of those things where at this point in time, when no one has cell phones, this is a less jarring scenario, because this shit would probably happen where you're just you have plans and the other person just doesn't show up.
Right.
And you can't contact them super easily. So you're just all right, well, whatever. And then the next day you see them and they're fine. And it was just something unexpected happened. So while they're there, God bless these teenage kids, they start tidying the place up because it's kind of messy in there. They dump out some ashtrays. They wash some of the dirty dishes that were in the sink, some dirty glasses. And they're just kind of trying to help, I guess, by tidying up the house. Again, odd to me. I got to tell you guys, that as a teenager, I would never have done that.
That's really suspicious. I don't know. Maybe the two of them are some real saints, but teenagers that are willingly cleaning up a house, even small tasks, oh, they're not home, let's just make it nice for them for when they come back. That doesn't sound right to me.
Especially when you just don't know where they are. It's not like they're house sitting for them or something. Then that, yeah. But they're confused. So finally they wait there for a while. And eventually they just leave for the water park because they don't know what to do. Before they leave, though, they do call Stacy's mom, Janice McCall. And they're like, hey, do you know where they are? We're trying to go to the water park. They're supposed to be here. Their cars are here. And Janice, is what the hell? Because Janice thought that they were all staying at Janelle's house because Janice hadn't been called about this updated plan. So Janice is a little upset with Stacy. So she calls Sherill and Susie's house and she leaves a message on the answering machine. She's like, hey, thought you guys were supposed to be sleeping at Janelle's house. They say they can't find you. Like, call me back. Like, let me know what's going on, where you're going to be. Because again, Stacy was supposed to call her mom like later that night or early the next morning and like let her know what the plan was for the day at the water park. So she leaves this message on the answering machine and she goes with her family to like a local lake they had some family outing planned. You know, it's Sunday. She's sticking to her own plans. So throughout the day, Janice and just the McCall family in general, they call Susie's house a few more times, leaving concerned messages for Stacy to call home as soon as she got the message. Later in the evening, they got a call from the mother of another one of Stacy's friends who told Janice that Stacy's purse, keys, and car were at Susie's house, but the girls and Susie's mom, Sherill, weren't there. So she didn't know that, like, not even Sherill was home when Janelle went over there in the morning. She was just like, oh, they just, like, didn't show up to go to the water park. Like, so throughout the day, as she's trying to call and, like, figure out where Stacy is, she's getting more and more information about, like, what's actually going on in this house. And the fact that Sherill wasn't even there and no one had seen Sherill and can't even get a hold of Sherill, now Janice is starting to, like, panic a little bit. She's like, something is wrong. And meanwhile, Mike and Janelle, they go to the water park and they have their whole day. They get done with the water park and they come back to the house, to Susie's house, around 7:30 p.m. because they still haven't heard from them. No one's heard from them. And they tried to call again before just showing up over there. And again, they're only getting the answering machine. Nothing had changed. So they go back to the house because they're like, what the hell is going on? And the house is still empty. No one is there. Then later that night, Stacy's mom, Janice, drives over to the house because it's about 9 p.m. on Sunday, June 7th. She hasn't heard from her daughter since the night before. No one knows where she is. And so she and her two other daughters, Stacy's sisters, Meredith and Lisa, they go over there trying to like figure out what is going on. And their plan was they were going to get Stacy's keys and one of the daughters was going to drive Stacy's car back to her house. They didn't want to just like leave the car there. They're like, why is it just sitting in the driveway? What is going on? Where is she? But wherever she is, someone must have picked them up, right?
That's weird. I'm not understanding why you would seek to move their car for them.
Well, because it was supposed to be, I believe it was supposed to be a little bit of a learning lesson for Stacy of you didn't tell me where you were going or what you were doing. So now you're going to get back and your car is going to be gone and you're going to have to find a way home type of thing. I don't know if it was like you're going to have to find a way home, but you're going to have to call your mom to come get you maybe. Okay. But it was supposed to be like kind of a punishment of sorts. Okay.
Okay.
So again, you can see like everybody's starting to be like, what is going on? Something is weird here. But I think a lot of people just think that like they're off doing something wrong. You know what I mean? They're teenagers. They're like not calling mom. I don't know where the fuck people think Sherill is.
I'm like, and mom's just not involved.
I don't know. But people are coming like in and out of this house all day looking for them. And that's what's funny. Like the door being open, like so many people go in and out. Even Janelle's mom, Kathy Kirby, and her husband, Randy, came to the house along with several of their friends and parents of friends who were all concerned about what was going on. And that's what's weird is like there's some people who seem more concerned. Like to me, Janice thinks Stacy is like breaking the rules and just not telling her where she is. But other people think something bad is happening. And so I don't know. I don't really know, like, did Stacy, kind of do this a lot? Like, was this normal for her? But it wasn't normal for Suzie and Sherill. I don't really know. So we've got Kathy, Randy, a bunch of their friends, and a couple of parents of other ones of the girls' friends there. So like this house is just fucking trampled on, which of course is going to matter evidence-wise. So Janice is looking around the house. She sees Stacy's things left behind, and she starts like looking through it. Again, they're just trying to like figure out how could they be gone, but all of their stuff is here. They must have their cigarettes, right? Nope. Cigarettes are here. And Janice actually thinks like Stacy had really bad migraines and she always carried migraine medicine with her. And so she's like, all right, she wouldn't go anywhere without her migraine medicine because she's going to have a bad time if a migraine hits. But her migraine medicine is in her purse. And the whole thing is just starting to feel wrong. But this wasn't like Stacy. Stacy always called her mom. She always told her where she was going to be. And so even though the plan was they were going to like kind of punish her, once they like saw what was like in the house and all their stuff left there and all of that, now they're like they've moved on from punishing her. Now they're thinking they're getting on the same page with the Kirbys and they're like, okay, no, something is weird here. It's not just her breaking the rules.
There's just too many things lining up here that destroy evidence. Like Mike comes in, cleans up the glass. The other two, they're cleaning up the rooms, like in the house. They're dumping ashtrays. They're sweeping floors. The other people, they're moving cars. Like there's now people in the house trampling through the house.
Yeah. And here's what I'll say is like, there weren't a ton of like TV shows and stuff about true crime and whatever. I think that people just didn't know. So like they didn't think about, oh, we can't touch everything or clean stuff up because it might be evidence. They're just trying to figure out what happened. You know what I mean? But it is like, you looking back on it, it's frustrating because you wish you did. And I'm not blaming these people. They didn't fucking know. They didn't mean to like mess it up. But you wish you're like, oh, I'm glad people know now and wouldn't do that, hopefully.
To me, it just makes me feel like someone, I'm not saying multiple people, but someone that is involved in the situation, that was present for cleanup or trampling, maybe manipulated the situation and was encouraging this behavior. Being like, oh, maybe we should call this family to come over, see if they know something. Or maybe, let's tidy up. Like to me, it just sounds like maybe there was one person that was kind of planting the seeds of doubt.
Maybe.
Throughout.
That's the thing is, to this day, we don't know. Well, obviously, we're not super far into the story yet, which maybe isn't obvious because we've been recording for 49 minutes, but we're about a quarter of the way through the story.
Really?
It's okay because it's just slow in the beginning. Like, we're going to learn a lot more, but in the end, we're going to talk through a lot of evidence and a lot of theories, but in the end, like, we do not know what happened. Anything is possible. Maybe there was one person who was involved and was close to them and was like rifling through shit and trying to make this all like convoluted and confusing. It's possible for sure. So Janice calls her husband Stu and she tells him at this point something is wrong with Stacy. Like something is very, very wrong. They're not just like fucking off at graduation parties or whatever. And at this point, they decide that they're going to call the police. But still, even though she's starting to feel really like something is wrong, she didn't even think it was an emergency enough to call 911. Like she didn't want to like call 911 and clog up the lines. And what's interesting is I read that the city had just gotten the 911 service. Like 911 was new. So she was like, that's only for like real emergencies. And she didn't want to like clog it up. She didn't really think this was an emergency just yet, but they felt like they need help figuring out what happened. So she calls the police station. The dispatcher answers and they ask her if she wanted to be connected to 911. She's like, no, we don't need that. We just need an officer to come to Sherill Levitt's house. And Sherill is divorced from Suzie's dad. That's why they have different last names. So Officer Rick Bookout arrived to a house full of people and a completely contaminated crime scene, obviously, because it's all been trampled over. Things have been moved, things have been cleaned up, and everything has been touched. And at this point, he's like, this is a lot of people to like try and get my job done with all of these people. So he calls for some backup, and a second officer named Brian Galt was dispatched to the scene. But it was estimated that as many as 18 different people had been in the house that day, from like when Janelle and Mike first went there in the morning to by the time the police arrived. So not all 18 were there, but this is a lot of people. Now, based on the description of how the house looked when they first arrived, police didn't believe that there had been any sort of struggle. The only thing that was out of sorts was the broken glass that Mike had cleaned up from the light above the front door. And nothing else was missing. It's not like there's a broken window. It's not like stuff is strewn all over the floor, like, a chair flipped over, anything that would show you that there's some type of like attack happening. There's no blood, nothing like that. And again, nothing missing. Cheryl's purse still had money. She was a hairstylist, so like she carried a lot of cash because that's how she made her money at work.
Right.
All of her money was still there. There was close to $900 between cash and checks still in her purse. So whoever, if someone came in here, it doesn't seem like the motive was to like rob the house or anything like that. There were also wet washcloths in the bathroom that indicated that Suzie and Stacy had washed the makeup off their faces after they got home because they're wet and they have makeup on them. Suzie's overnight bag was in her room because she had packed it because they thought they were staying elsewhere that night. But it's back in her room, so we obviously know they made it up to the bedroom. And again, Suzie and Sherill, both very heavy smokers, and all their cigarettes and lighters are left behind. So... and they've been gone, like no one's seen them in, almost 24 hours. I don't know if you guys know any heavy smokers, but they ain't going 24 hours without a little cigarette. Now, Stacy's clothes were neatly folded on top of her shoes. Her swimsuit for the water park was also there with that migraine medication. And wherever Stacy was, they believe that she was there wearing only a t-shirt and her underwear because those were the only clothing items that weren't stacked up with her clothes. There was no underwear, and the t-shirt she had been wearing that night was missing. Again, this to me, I don't think that's the case because you're not going to sleep at your friend's house in your underwear. I think she probably borrowed some of Suzie's clothes, and people just don't know Suzie's wardrobe well enough to know that like a certain pair of sweatpants are missing. You know what I mean? But people do argue that Stacy was taller and a little bit heavier than Suzie and that she couldn't fit into her clothes normally. And so I'm like, again, good. Okay, fine. But sweatpants.
Yeah, or a loose pair of basketball shorts.
Yes. I don't think you're going to your friend's house and like sharing a bed and just sleeping in your underwear. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, there were no men in the house.
There's no men in the house.
So it's just girls. So yeah. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, like I would I change and stuff with my friends. Yeah. So like I don't know if I'm gonna like cuddle them, but I guess. No. But also like if my option is sleep in my underwear or sleep in like jeans, and presumably they've been drinking. Okay, I don't. Right. They've been at parties all night. I think they've been drinking all night. So if I'm drunk and my options are sleep in my jeans or in my underwear, and it's a summer night.
And it's just a girl's house.
It's just my girl, like
Who's your BFF?
Yeah, my BFF. Yeah, I guess I'm sleeping in my underwear at that point. But I think she probably borrowed something from Suzie. But as the officers interviewed people on the scene, they start to build out this rough timeline, a lot of which I've already told you. And they quickly come to the realization that this was a pretty legit missing persons case. Everyone who knew them, there was nowhere they could be. Their cars were there. Like, all of their friends and family had been, spoken to. And they are starting to realize, something is very, very wrong here. At this point, Officer Bookout asked Janice McCall if she could obtain dental records for Stacy. And this, of course, hit her like a ton of bricks because she's a dental hygienist. And she knows that when police are asking for dental records, it's because they're trying to identify human remains, usually. This seems like Officer Bookout, do your job for sure. Seems like we could have given it a couple more weeks before we're asking for dental records.
You're sending mom into a full-blown panic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's tough. So in the following days, not only do they interview everyone who had been through the house, they interview classmates from the parties. They interview the Kirby family. They interview the neighbors that lived near Suzie and Sherill. The neighbors reported that they did not hear or see anything out of sorts the night before. Family and friends called the fire department, the state police, and hospitals looking for Jane Does, with no luck finding reports on calls to the house. It's not like, police were sent to the house that night or the fire department. There were no accidents that they heard of involving 3 women. And it was just there was nothing to go off of. So investigators ended up locating a house key. They locked the door. And they left a note for Sherill, Suzie, and Stacy that if they returned to the house, that they needed to contact the Springfield Police Department and let them know that, they're okay. And at this point, a missing persons case is officially opened. And the descriptions of the 3 women went out. We've got Sherill Elizabeth Levitt, white female, age 47. Date of birth, November 1st, 1944. She's 5 feet tall and 110 pounds. And in June of 1992, her hair was bleached blonde, curly, and cut short. Sherill has brown eyes and freckles on her neck and her upper chest area. Sherill's daughter, Suzie, Suzanne Elizabeth Streeter, white female, age 19, date of birth, March 9th, 1973. She was 5 feet 2 inches tall, 102 pounds, and she had shoulder-length, bleach blonde hair, brown eyes. She had identifiable marks, which included a 3.5-inch scar on her right forearm, and she has a small tumor in the left corner of her mouth that kind of made it look like she had a gumball in her mouth. Suzie also had a very large, toothy smile, and at the time of their disappearance, she had never had any dental work done. Stacy Kathleen McCall, white female, age 18, date of birth, April 23rd, 1974, 5 feet 3 inches and 120 pounds. And this is why it made me laugh when they were like, she's a little bit taller and heavier than Suzie. I'm like, first of all, she weighs 120 pounds and she's 5'3".
Skinny queen.
So them being like, she couldn't fit into Suzie's clothes. Yeah, Suzie was tiny. She's 5 feet 2, and she's 102 pounds. So like that's very, very thin for 5'2", I think. Like
Absolutely.
That's really thin. I get it. But like she's only 18 pounds heavier. She can fit into her fucking clothes. Like Stacy could fit into Suzie's clothes.
I mean, honestly, when you were going over the other two women's like height and weight, I was like, oh, they were thin. Like everybody.
Yeah,
this group is thin.
Yeah. Because they be smoking packs.
Is that what it is? I'm like,
that's what people say is it like makes your appetite. It lowers your appetite. But yeah, saying that she's heavier at 120 pounds, I'm like, now maybe like a tight pair of jeans, fine. You might not fit into, but you're fitting into her sweatpants or something to sleep in.
Or her t-shirts or shirts. Like,
now, Stacy had blue eyes and long, dark blonde hair with sun-lightened ends that reached her waist. So very long hair. She also had freckles and a dimple in the middle of her chin. So these descriptions are blasted all over the media. And 2 days after they disappeared, the case was actually featured on CBS's 48 Hours, giving it a national audience, which I don't understand this. I haven't seen this 48 Hours episode. This doesn't make sense to me because 48 Hours is usually like an hour-long special about it. So I'm like, there's no way they put together an hour-long special 2 days after they went missing. But I think it might be one of those things where maybe they like at the end they highlight a couple of like active cases or something like that. But the story was growing pretty fast in the media. It was broadcasted on America's Most Wanted and later on shows like Oprah that would, when they would do episodes focusing on mysterious disappearances. So this case throughout the years, like early on, it got a lot of media attention. And compared to a lot of cold cases, a lot of cold missing persons cases, it has really had sustained attention over the years. Probably not perfectly, but a lot more than other cases we've talked about for sure. Now, Springfield PD ended up getting help from the Missouri State Patrol and the FBI. So the FBI actually sent an agent from the Behavioral Analysis Unit. And if you guys know, I got to interview a former FBI profiler from the Behavioral Analysis Unit for the podcast, Julia Cowley. So if you haven't heard that episode yet, I think it's super interesting. We were discussing the the Meredith Kircher case, but specifically we were discussing Amanda Knox's behavior and, her perspective as a profiler. It was one of the coolest things I've ever gotten to do. So you can find that episode. I forget what number it is, but if you just search Julia on my feed, you'll be able to find it. But yeah, so they're getting everybody involved. There was also a community-wide search that was conducted. There were divers checking Lake Springfield. And by Wednesday, June 10th, a small army of volunteers distributed over 20,000 bright yellow missing persons flyers and hung them all around the city. They were circulated even further by being taped to the top of pizza boxes before they were delivered. So if you lived in this area, you heard
about it.
You knew of this story. There were searches conducted in the neighboring cities of Forsyth, Joplin, and Stockton. They searched on foot, on horseback, on ATVs. And as the days and weeks went on with no leads, the Springfield Ledger printed a tally of how many days the women had been missing in their daily paper. They would include the counter on the front page for months after the disappearance, trying to, make sure they were trying to keep it fresh in people's minds. Mm-hmm. But weeks went on and there were no solid leads. There were no signs of the women. And as more and more time went by, different theories started to develop. One of the leading theories was that someone had targeted Sherill Levitt because she was the only one of the three that was supposed to be home that night. Remember, Suzie and Stacy, they were supposed to be like in a whole nother town by the water park originally. Right. So they're thinking, okay, maybe someone went to the house expecting her to be alone, thinking she's going to be an easy target, and the girls are unexpectedly there. And whoever was there for whatever purpose and whatever they planned to do to Sherill, this all went awry. And whether this person planned to hurt Sherill or, end her life or take her, who knows? But, even if let's say someone wanted to sexually assault her, but the girls are home, did it go awry? And then now I have to take them all or something like that. Who knows? Another theory was that Suzie, who was kind of known to run with like a rough group of friends, they thought that maybe one of these or multiple of these rough friends that she would hang out with, maybe they were committing crimes. Maybe Suzie saw or heard something they didn't want her to, and therefore they targeted Suzie. They're like, we got to get rid of Suzie. She knows too much. And then Sherill and Stacy are there too. And so they've got to get rid of them all. I can't really find out like what were these rough group of friends really doing. This sounds like a stretch for just some misbehaved teenagers to like successfully kidnap and possibly murder 3 women and just fully get away with it for 30 years. But I don't know.
I don't think it could have been all 3 of them at the same time.
That is what is so mind-boggling about this case is, to me, if they were killed, which, it's 30 years later, it's very likely that they were killed. I don't think they were killed in the house. Mm-mm. There would be evidence of that. I think there would be something.
Struggle.
Yeah.
Something.
I mean, I guess you could say that maybe they strangled them, but I'm like, if the 2 girls were in the bed together, you're on a waterbed. If you're strangling one on one side, the other one's going to wake up.
Right.
They're going to feel that motion in that waterbed.
And I feel like if you're a mom and you know that your daughter and her kids are home and say you hear something strange happen, like that light breaking in the front, or it sounds like your house is being broken into, you're not taking the time to nicely fold your page over in the bed, fold your reading glasses and put them on. I feel like you're going to get up in a hurry and things are going to look more disturbed than that. I
just don't think there's, if they were killed in that house, all 3 of them, I just really feel like there would be something.
Right. That's
because
what I'm saying,
I don't think you're, killing the first 2 and, at least the last one isn't waking up or something. Or, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you could argue maybe this was maybe 5 people went in there and did it. But there's no evidence of them being killed in the house. And I think that if they were killed, they were likely taken somewhere else first and then killed. But it's mind-boggling because I'm like, how did someone go in and get 3 people? And that makes me think, this was multiple people.
That or, the mom was taken first and then the girls came home.
Yeah, and then the girls came home and this guy's, holding a gun to the mom's head, get in the car or I'm going to kill your mom.
Yeah.
What do? I guess you get in the car. And guys, this is not advice for you because I want to have no responsibility if something really bad happens to you guys. No offense, but I don't want that on my For me, from what I know from true crime, someone is holding a gun to my head saying, get in the car, absolutely shoot me right here, right now. Because whatever they're going to do to me at that second location is going to be worse than them shooting me. And if they are prepared to kill you, if they're planning on killing you for like, they're just like a psychopath. They like enjoy killing. And it's not just like, they don't have like a motive, like a personal motive against you. I'm talking a random stranger. They probably aren't going to get what they want out of killing you by like shooting you in a parking garage. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They want something specific out of it, whether it's, you know, a rape or a sexual assault or some torturous fucking death or whatever. In my opinion, for me, not for you guys, not advice for anyone out there. Someone is holding a gun to my head. I ain't getting, shoot me right here, right now. I'd rather die in the parking garage than be taken to a second location, for sure. And I don't know, there might be like some statistics. I don't fucking know. At the same time, if they're holding a gun to the head of someone I love, I might get in the car.
Especially if you're 18.
But I would be like, yeah, that's hard. That's hard. Well, yeah, especially if you're 18. 18, I would have gotten in the car if there was a gun in my head because I wouldn't have known. But yeah, whatever. People are thinking maybe it's this very, very, very rough group of friends. Apparently, again, I don't have the details on why they were considered rough or like to what level rough meant to them. But what most people theorize is that this was probably a random crime, like a completely random, just some predator who maybe spotted Suzie and Stacy driving around town in their cars and like followed them back. Suzie's car was super like identifiable. She had a personalized license plate that read Sweeter, but it's like SWEETR. I don't think the last E would fit. But they were like, okay, if you're a predator and you're like, oh, I've locked on that girl, this is a very easy girl to follow. She's got a red car with a personalized license plate. And so, okay, they're going to all these parties. Did someone follow them back to the house and do something to them?
That's a hard one because I feel like if you're on the road in the middle of the night, I'm assuming there's not a ton of people out on the road at that time. You're going to know if someone's following you.
Yeah. Guys, I'm telling you, there's been 4 or 5 times in my life where looking back, I think maybe one time this person was actually following me. For what? I don't know. But there's been a few times where like, nope, this person has been behind me for way too long. They're following me too close. And sorry, it's a man. No, I'm not. I'm skipping my house, skipping my street, and I'm driving to, if it's the daytime, I'm driving to a public place, the grocery store, whatever it may be. Really, you should drive. If you actually truly believe someone's following you, you should drive immediately to the police station, to a local police station. And you can even call them, let them know you're coming. Like, don't call 911 at that point. I think you call the station. You just say, hey, I might just be being paranoid, but I think this dude is following me, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they must not have, though, if someone was following them. Because, like, I don't know, maybe you just go home. You don't know what to do. Anyway, I'm getting off track. I apologize. We kind of talked about for a minute there, like, how could one person take all 3 of these women? And this was a question a lot of people had. But the FBI profiler on the case, which was Agent James Wright, he believed that a single subject could have gained control of the 3 women by using what is called the Great Equalizer, aka what we were saying before, a gun. With one gun, a single attacker could control all 3 women just by, threatening them, getting them to behave. And this is what he believed happened here. He believed whether, it was one person, maybe 2, whatever. He believed that this is how the women were taken out of the house. There were not enough signs of a struggle to where it's like, oh, these women were just grabbed and like forcefully dragged out of the house as they're kicking and screaming. There was no evidence at the scene of that. There's no scuff marks on the floor. There's no like anything broken, whatever. It seemed that the women had walked out of the house. And he thinks that it's because this person was threatening them with a gun. Now, again, he says the number of subjects is unknown. Was it 1 person, 2 people, 3 people? We don't know. But he believes that if it was more than 1, the leader was most likely an acquaintance who, quote, may have known their comings and goings, end quote. Because, like, okay, let's say they're going for Sherill. They think Cheryl's going to be there alone. That's a good theory. And it just, like, goes wrong for this person. And now they've got to take all 3. Or this is someone they know from one of those parties that follows them or knows where they're going to stay that night. Because that's the hard part is They weren't going to stay. They weren't supposed to be there that night. And they changed plans 5 times pretty much.
Right. I don't think you could pull this off without knowing them.
No.
Personally.
But that's the thing is I lean towards I think Sherill was the target of this. Because unless it was someone who followed them back. But remember, they were at Janelle Kirby's house with her family because they were going to sleep there. So it's not like they came from a party and drove from the party to Suzie's house. They drove from a party to Janelle Kirby's house to Suzie's house. So did someone follow them, sit outside Janelle's house, and then follow them elsewhere? I don't think so. No. And otherwise, if someone didn't follow them, I don't see how someone could have known that the girls were going to be there that night. And that's why I think this was someone either specifically targeting Sherill or like a predator that was just whatever. So Agent Wright is kind of on the same page. And Taylor, you should go into FBI profiling really in your next career path. Because he also believed that this unknown subject was, quote, familiar with the area of the crime, and he may have been frequently out and about at odd hours, end quote. He added that the unsub may have been good at kind of putting on a facade for people, making people believe that he was a very mild-mannered person. He said, quote, people who knew the suspect may not believe that he is capable of committing this type of crime, and he may not have a history of committing crimes of violence, end quote. So could he be one of those people that was in and out of the house all day? We don't know. Now, with increased attention on the case, tips start to flow in to the Springfield Police Department. And there were a few prevalent reports that I think are worth mentioning that witnesses made, that they're calling in, they're like, I know something about what is happening here. Obviously, they're getting a ton of like, I don't know that it's people lying, but a ton of shitty tips that like are not helpful or, you know, very obviously have nothing to do with the case. But there's some good ones. So there's one witness who calls in and he says that there is an unidentified man that we believe is like, they called him like a transient man. I think like a homeless man or maybe like some sort of person who's like hopping around, staying with relatives, whatever. He doesn't seem to be an established man, okay? Apparently, within days of the disappearances, he was seen near Sherill and Suzie's house. And this was like days before the disappearance. There's no reason for this unidentified man to be there. No one knows who this guy is. No one recognizes him. And no one knows of like any guy that knew Sherill and Suzie that should have been at the house. So they bring in this witness and they have a composite sketch made. And it was released to the public like, hey, if you know this guy, we want to talk to him. But no one was ever identified and nothing else came out of it. But again, is this guy kind of stalking around the house trying to figure out like what's going on? Again, if he's going after Sherill, trying to wait to see when she's home alone and like wait for his moment, who knows? Maybe he's phone call guy. Now, another witness came forward and reported to police that they saw a young blonde matching Suzie's description driving an older Dodge van on a Sunday morning on the day of their disappearance. So again, they got home late Saturday night. The witness said that they heard a man's voice coming from the inside of the van saying in what was described as like a forceful manner to, quote, turn around, back up, don't do anything silly or stupid, end quote. The witness said the female driver followed the man's instructions. Why would she be driving the car though? I mean, I guess you could say he's got the gun. Is he holding it to someone's head in the back? And he's like, go this way. Like, who knows? Now, there was another witness who came forward, and this person was a server at a steakhouse called George's Steakhouse in Springfield. And she said that she saw the 3 women in the early hours of June 7th between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. She claimed that the women came in together and they left together. She also said that Suzie appeared to be intoxicated when they were leaving. And the server claimed that Sherill was trying to calm Suzie down. Like, she seemed very upset. And they kind of deep dive into this tip, but the server's story was unable to be corroborated. No one else in the restaurant remembers this interaction, and it didn't really line up with the timelines because we know that they were at Janelle Kirby's house until about 2:10 a.m. And so it doesn't really make sense for them to like be there between 1 and 3 a.m. It's possible for sure. It could fit into the timeline, but it just didn't really make sense. And there was no one who could back this story up saying they saw something similar. Or I remember seeing the blonde girls there or anything like that. Another tip was received by police, and this came in from more than one witness. And a couple different people called, and they all reported that they heard women's screams and squealing tires on the eastern side of the county. And again, this is in the area of the house, but like very nondescript of like exactly where this was because it's multiple people. So police investigated, but they weren't able to locate any evidence related to the missing women. But to me, this seems like it probably has something to do with the case. If multiple people are like, I'm hearing tires screeching and women are screaming, and we're all kind of in the same area, and 3 women went missing that same night, I think it's probably them screaming.
I would say so.
Now, a second tip about a van came in from someone who said that they saw a Dodge van in a parking lot at a local grocery store with a blonde female in the driver's seat. So this is all aligning with the first story about the female driver in the van. It's a older Dodge van, blonde girl driving it. And the witness just kind of saw this van and saw like the situation and just was like, something's weird here. I don't know why, but something is weird here. And so they wrote down the license plate number on a newspaper that they had with them. Now, the witness didn't call this in right away because he didn't know that these girls were missing. Like if this was them, this was right after they go missing. Like people are probably still going in and out of their house at this point. So he's just like, that was weird, whatever. He doesn't hear anything. He had the newspaper for a few days, eventually throws it away. Then he sees the news of these 3 missing women and he calls police. But at this point, he didn't have the newspaper. He couldn't get it back. Garbage has been taken and he could not remember the license plate number. He could only remember the first 3 digits. And this is one of those things. This case is like, there's so much where it's like you almost have something to go off of. You almost have something. But I think these stories about the vans, the fact that multiple people are telling the same story, they're both saying it's the same type of van, an older Dodge van, and they're both saying there's a blonde woman driving it. I think it's very likely that they were in this van.
Yeah. This is the van they disappeared with.
Yeah. So it's just unfortunate that he couldn't, he had literally written it down and he just didn't see the news in time. Now, with this, the leads about this van, they're strong enough that the Springfield police, they're kind of on the same wavelength as us. They're like, all right, we think this is pretty legit.
I mean, is it really impossible to narrow that down? I mean, how many Dodge vans are in this area with, these 3 starting numbers in this color,
I don't know.
this age?
I don't know, but I know that they were focused and they were looking into it because they even ended up to keep like attention on it and to keep the van in people's minds. Like that was the only thing they had to go off of like what could have happened to these girls. There was like no other evidence to go off of. So they're trying to remind people like, did you see this van? Have you seen this van recently? Whatever. And so they end up buying a Dodge van, and it's like a dark green van. They bought one of these that is like matches the description that these witnesses gave, and they parked it in front of the police station, hoping that people, as they're driving by and they've heard about this case and they're seeing that van, that it like sparks some sort of memory for people or whatever. Or maybe they already had kind of thought, well, I kind of saw something weird, but it's probably not connected. It's probably not important. But then they keep driving by and seeing it and call in. So they're trying to like keep it there, hoping it's going to trigger even more leads. And they actually left it in front of the police department for 4 months after the disappearances until late December when it was finally towed away. Now, that same month, so December, this is when the case is featured on America's Most Wanted. And after the case is featured, an anonymous mail caller phoned into the show's hotline after the program was over, but he disconnected before he could talk to an investigator. Authorities believed the man had vital details that could have shed light on the women's disappearances, and they made public pleas for the man to contact them. Because I think this is one of those things where, like, they call into the show, and the show has people working for them, and anything that they're like, this isn't a prank call or, like, you know, just stupid and unrelated, they then transfer them and connect them with the actual investigators or police, whatever, on the case. And so I think whatever they told to the people working at America's Most Wanted was like felt very important, very relevant to the case. And they're like, oh shit, they transfer them, but the call never makes it to investigators. Like this person, I think, hung up. I don't know, obviously, but it sounds like they hung up because they never come forward again. I don't know what they said to America's Most Wanted. And I don't, maybe it wasn't anything detailed, but police seem to think it was important.
And there's no written documentation or anything.
I'm sure the police do, but when it's like an active case, they don't always release all of the information. Like sometimes it's like a strategic move to not tell people about stuff, to not let it out in the public. So although there was no physical evidence such as blood at the scene to indicate that the women were killed, investigators believed that they were killed. And they, at this point, it's been months, they're starting to look for bodies, okay? And so they're kind of theorizing on where and how their remains would have been disposed of. So there are a few different theories on this. Some people think that they were taken out to the Mark Twain National Forest, where they were killed at the forest and then buried there. Others believe that their bodies were taken to a farm in Webster County, and this is horrible, and fed to the hogs, which is not unheard of. We have heard of in other cases people doing that because hogs will
eat anything.
Yeah, eat humans. Now, the hog farm theory had been given to investigators by a member of a motorcycle gang in 1993. And he was basically like, I heard they fed those girls to the hogs. But he didn't say he saw it or anything. He's just like, I heard rumors that at this farm they fed these girls that are missing to the hogs. Police felt that it was worth looking into, and it was kind of a valid theory because the owner of the property of this farm was a convicted murderer. Why he was out and about, don't know, but he was.
And with pigs.
Yeah. And so police are looking into it, but they were never able to verify this information or this story or find any evidence. And the man who owned the farm died in 1995. So if he was involved, whatever he knew died with him. I have no idea. I don't have a strong opinion on if this guy was involved, but now several men rose to the top of the suspect list early in the investigation. One of these men was Bart Streeter, who was Cheryl's son. So Bart and Suzie, they have the same dad, but Bart is 9 years older than Suzie. And Sherill had married Bart and Suzie's dad, Brent Streeter, in 1964. Bart was born the following year in 1965 and Suzie in 1973. Brent and Sherill eventually divorced, obviously, because she's got a different last name now. But she stayed in the Seattle area with the two children. So the dad wasn't super, super involved. And as the time went on, they didn't have any contact at all with their dad. So Sherill pretty much just raised them alone until she met her second husband, Don Levitt. They married in 1980, blending their two families together. And when Cheryl's sister, Deborah, moved to Springfield, Missouri for her husband's job, Sherill and Don decided to move there too so that they could be close to her sister and their family. Unfortunately, Deborah's husband was laid off in 1983, and they decide that they're going to move back to Washington State. But despite moving to Springfield just to be near her sister, Sherill and Don at this point, they're like, nah, we're not moving again. We're going to stay in Springfield. But sadly, Sherill and Don's marriage did not last, and they divorced in 1989. Don pretty much just ghosted Sherill and left behind a mountain of debt and just left Sherill to figure it out as a single mom with two kids. And she was working as a cosmetologist, mainly doing hair. And so she didn't really have the means to just take care of this. So she was forced to hire a lawyer because his creditors, all of this debt that he left behind, they started coming after her for payment because they were married when he got into this debt. And this is why, guys, you need to know your partner's finances before you marry them. And you have to have a prenuptial agreement. And if you don't make your own prenup, it doesn't mean there's not a prenup. there is a prenup. It's just the standard state prenup. And so you are legally agreeing to a prenuptial agreement. You just don't know what the fuck it says. So I don't know about you guys, but if and when I get married, there's going to be a prenup. Hell yeah. So they're coming after her for all of this fucker's debt. And she's struggling financially for a long time, but she slowly turned things around, and she ended up saving enough money to buy that house that they lived in when they went missing. And Sherill was determined to make it a really nice home. She did these renovations herself. Remember the last time her friend talked to her, the last time anyone talked to her, she was on the phone with her friend talking about like this piece of furniture that she was refinishing. Like she was a handy lady.
We love it. Independent queen.
We love an independent queen. Fuck yeah. So she was just trying to turn this house into a very cozy home. And really, it was just for her and Suzie, because by this time, Bart had already moved out on his own and into an apartment. Again, he's 9 years older than Suzie. So for a time, Suzie actually went and stayed with her brother. But Bart was a very heavy drinker. And one night, when he was heavily intoxicated, they got into a fight about the volume on the stereo. Suzie wanted him to turn it down, and Bart wanted to crank it up. I don't know. I don't think that this fight got physical or anything, but at that point, like that fight really broke the relationship for a minute, and Suzie decides, can't live with you anymore. I'm going to go live with mom again. So she moves back in with Sherill, and at this point, Suzie and Bart stop talking. Like they're completely estranged. They don't talk to each other. They don't see each other, nothing. And Sherill supports Suzie in this. She does the same thing. She cuts off communication with Bart. And they, like leading up to their disappearance, they had not spoken to him for at least a few months. And he didn't even get invited to Suzie's graduation. So it was one of those things where, like, again, they said he has a drinking problem. And I think it was like, well, if you're going to drink and you're going to behave this way, then you don't get to be a part of our lives, sort of thing. And because of this strife, police looked at Bart pretty heavily early on in the investigation. At the time, he was working as a land surveyor, but he did have an alibi for the night that his mom, sister, and Stacy McCall went missing. Still, they went pretty hard on him, interrogating him, and they asked him to take a polygraph test. At first, he kind of said no, like he didn't want to do it because he was just kind of fucking offended, which I get it I get it, but it is necessary. The police are doing their jobs, and he eventually complies. He says, yes, I'll take it. And he does pass this polygraph. So there's not much more, there's not a ton of evidence pointing to Bart. There's not really any evidence pointing to Bart that he was involved. It's not like, he was like talking shit about them or anything like that. And we do have a lot more theories and suspects to go over. But unfortunately, I'm looking at the time here, and we've recorded about a full episode's worth of content. So I do think that this is going to have to be a two-parter. But here's the thing, guys. If you're like, oh man, I really wish I could listen to part 2 right now, don't get excited because you can't. It's not out yet. I'll promise you that. But we do have a brand new bonus episode available now. And when I say brand new, I mean about 8 days old, because it was out last week. Just forgot to mention it in last week's episode. Ooh. So if you subscribe to our Patreon at the tier, you have to be in, which one is it? You have to be in the jury or higher. You have access to all of our bonus episodes currently. In the future, there may be another tier with more bonus content that you won't get, but yeah, you get it. And last week we released an episode about the Rothschild family surrealist ball of 1972. Have you ever heard of this, Taylor?
I have not.
This is some crazy shit. So basically, do you know who the Rothschilds are?
No.
Okay. The Rothschilds are one of the richest families in the world. This dates back hundreds and hundreds of years. They were bankers. They pretty much like funded a lot of like international wars, like a lot of just like killing and violence. But yeah, it's a really interesting family, and a lot of people think that they're kind of like the leaders of the Illuminati, or they were some of the founding parties of the Illuminati. So in 1972, Baron Guy de Rothschild and Baroness Marie Helene de Rothschild, they at the time lived in the most expensive and largest private residence in France, just outside of Paris. It was the Chateau de Ferrier. And they were really into surrealism. It was popular. This is Salvador Dali times. And they like to have a motherfucking party. And they went all out because, again, richest people, some of the richest people in the world. So they throw this surrealist party. They send out the invitations. You have to like hold the invitation up to a mirror to read it because they're all written backwards.
Oh, stop. That's money.
And if you don't know anything about surrealism, like surrealism is all about like bending reality. Again, if you know Salvador Dali's artwork, you get it. But the whole thing is theme surrealism, dress in a surrealist dress, but black tie also. So they're all coming in ball gowns and tuxedos with surrealist headpieces and face paints on. And you go into, there's a maze when you come in. When you come in the house, there's like 2 grand staircases and there's a bunch of servants dressed up as cats, like lounging like cats snoozing on the staircase. Then the dinner plates were like lined with fur. Just like weird shit. Like it's all really, really weird and creepy. And it is so interesting. And I actually made this on Patreon. It's a video episode. So there's tons of pictures that I put in it there of like all of the costumes and stuff. They're so complex and just fucking sick, honestly. They're so cool and creepy and weird. But because of who this family is and because of like some of the decor, like there's one table, like the centerpiece was like baby dolls and like baby doll parts. And I don't know if you guys know about all the stuff with Jeffrey Epstein and like the alleged eating of babies, but that's what they think was happening here, is that maybe was this just a themed party or was this an Illuminati induction ceremony? And some of the most famous people in the world were there. Audrey Hepburn was there, Salvador Dali. I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head right now, but tons of people. So really interesting episode, video episode, available on Patreon now. There's 2 other Patreon episodes that are out. We talk about the Afro Man trials, and then the first episode we did was about the Baraboo Bone Breaker, which is some sadistic little fucking teenager who was abducting young boys and breaking their bones for fun and holding them captive. So yeah, we've got a few interesting bonus episodes. So if you're dying for another episode right now, there's 3 available for you now on Patreon. Go check it out. The link is in the show notes. And I think with that, we'll see you in part 2. Court is adjourned. Bye.